Put down a question here, and I wanted to speak about it pretty in-depthly. And I wanted to speak about City and Liverpool pretty in-depthly in this podcast, as you can tell by the title. It is this question: who has had more success relative to their club's expectations over their time at their respective club? Pep or Klopp? Now, if you want to speak about who's had more success... Now, okay, I'll dive into the question, but I wanna answer why I thought of this question. The reason I thought of this question is I thought of this when Liverpool qualified for the Champions League final, and I saw it on other podcasts as well, and I saw it be talked about quite a bit. This question really needs to be understood, and people are going to be really reactive as soon as I give my answer to this question. But just understand the question first and really understand what this is trying to mean, because it's a pretty in-depth question if you think about it. Relative to their club's success, or to their club's expectations rather, who has had more success over their time at the club, Klopp or Pep? Now, obviously, Pep, countless trophies, Premier Leagues, League Cups, one FA Cup, I think, but no Champions Leagues. Now, Manchester City obviously have infinite money that they spend on infinite things. So, for them, the Premier League, I mean, the Carabao Cup to them is nothing, and even the FA Cup to an extent is nothing, right? I know I think they've only won one FA Cup in Pep's time, I'm pretty sure. So, you take that into account, sure, and then the Premier League is almost the expectation. The Premier League is almost there in terms of what City are achieving. In terms of that's there. So in terms of that's there, meaning like that is the expectation to win the league. You're not going above the expectations by winning the league. So scratch that. Whereas Klopp, he came into a Liverpool team that was shot. He had a fucking Moreno and Sacco and Skirtle and Kolo Touré and like all these, like Balotelli and Jordan Ibe and all these guys, right? Which are good players, but not the Mo Salah and Luis Diaz and Thiago and all these players I have now. So his expectations were to get Liverpool competitive again. And they still are, to an extent, those expectations. He has gone beyond his expectations whilst at Liverpool. That is fact. They won the league, they won the Champions League, and they're probably going to win the Champions League again this season. They've got the chance of doing a quadruple. So I know that chance is dwindling slowly, and we spoke about that just before, the circumstances in which that happened, that could happen. But relative to their club's expectations, so what I mean by that is, I think I explained it just before, but if your expectation is to win the Champions League, winning the Premier League doesn't go beyond those expectations, doesn't make you successful in terms of what you are required to do. So relative to their club's expectations, Jurgen Klopp is a far more successful manager than Pep Guardiola. Yeah, so like Klopp, Liverpool's expectation when Klopp came in was to maintain competitiveness and then build this team up. He's built them up and taken them beyond that. Pep was to win the league. So Pep's won the league already. That's fine. He's won the league countless times. But with the amount of money they've spent and what they want to do to break that wall down between being a good club to an elite club is by winning the Champions League. And Pep has shown time and time again that Pep Guardiola is a failure in European competitions, especially in recent times. He won it with Barcelona, but then again, I think I could have won it with that Barcelona team, with all due respect. Went to Bayern Munich, couldn't win it. He's gone to Manchester City, has spent about $4 billion on that team, and hasn't won it yet. And I don't think he will win it. So I'll reiterate this once again because I feel like it needs to be understood. Relative to their club's expectations, Jurgen Klopp is a far more successful manager than Pep Guardiola. Based on their time at their respective clubs, based on what their clubs want them to do. That is fact. And if you want to speak about successful managers in terms of total trophies they've won, well then it's not a question. I can't even debate that. But relative to their club's expectations, Klopp is far, far, far ahead than Pep Guardiola. And I feel like Klopp has a lot more time left at his club than Pep Guardiola does. No disrespect to Pep. He certainly isn't a failure. He certainly isn't successful. But Klopp is more successful than Pep Guardiola based on his club's expectations. And I feel like that's the measuring stick in which you need to adjudicate and judge these things because then there's only this many managers in the world in the history of football that can be deemed successful. But you need to take into account their circumstances and their expectations. That's the true measure of success. Because you look at Mo Farah, Olympic marathon runner, and you look at me, right? Me. Mo Farah wins an Olympic marathon. That's great. He does that. Does he run the marathon? Usain Bolt. Let's go Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt, 100-meter sprinter, best in the world, well, not anymore, but best ever, right? If he wins an Olympic gold medal in the 100-meter sprint, that is his expectation. Whereas if I get a silver medal in that same race, I am more successful pound for pound than Usain Bolt. Because based on my expectations, I should not even be in the Olympics in a 100-meter sprint. But if I win a silver medal, as I am right now, that is far beyond the expectations of me and everyone else for me. Whereas Usain Bolt is expected to win the gold medal. So, unless he breaks the world record, he can't go above his expectations. Yes, I know that's because he's so good. And that's because he's leveled up that expectations as his career's progressed, which makes him better. But Pep hasn't built his expectations at City before he came. City were already winning Premier Leagues before Pep Guardiola came. Jurgen Klopp, or Liverpool weren't winning Champions Leagues before Jurgen Klopp came. I know, obviously, they did, but you know what I mean. Please understand what I mean by that. Like, obviously, they did, but not that team in that era. City had won the league 2 seasons before Pep came. It was a decade since Liverpool won the Champions League, and it was like 2007 was the last time they'd won a major trophy, I think. 2008 even. So, based on that theory and that idea of thinking, and that method of thinking rather, Jurgen Klopp is a far more successful manager at his club than Pep Guardiola. Now, if you want to translate that into their whole career, I feel like that's a debate that you could very, very well have, because based off where Jurgen Klopp's come from, the teams he's had, the investment he's had compared to Pep, where he's come from, the teams he's had, the investment he's had. If you give a man a yacht, he's going to get to his destination quicker than a man in a wooden boat. That's just fact. So, if the man in the wooden boat gets there 3 hours earlier than he's expected to get to that island, he's more successful than that bloke in a yacht who just got there on time. That's the method of thinking. I think the best way of describing this is pound for pound. Obviously, that's an MMA term and a boxing term and a combat sport term. But pound for pound, Jurgen Klopp is a more successful manager than Pep Guardiola at their time at their respective clubs. I feel like I hope I was able to articulate my thought process well in that. It is a strange concept to think about, but if you try and understand that question, I'm still trying to understand that question fully now. That's why I wanted to speak about it to fully grasp what it means. But yeah, Pep Guardiola is not as a successful manager as Jurgen Klopp, based on Man City's expectations to Liverpool's expectations. I hope that makes sense, and I hope that that's wrapped up the title race chat well for this episode anyway. Now, I mean, if Pep Guardiola wins 6 Champions Leagues in a row, then yeah, fair goes. I mean, I can't have that. But then again, if Jurgen Klopp wins the quadruple this season, I think you can just say he's the more successful manager, period, based on that. But anyway, we had that conversation now, so let's move on. Before I tie myself into further knots, and let's move on to the